the 1947 Canadian 1-cent coin. Bearing the effigy of King George VI and the Latin inscription, Georgiev's vidg rex et and imp, stands as an emblematic relic of Canada's transitional period during the aftermath of the Second World War and the gradual reshaping of the British Empire into the modern Commonwealth. Struck by the Royal Canadian Mint, this humble bronze coin not only served as a practical means of commerce, but also encapsulated significant constitutional and geopolitical shifts that were quietly unfolding across the British dominions, including Canada in the late 1940s. The obverse of the coin features the left-facing portrait of King George VI, the reigning monarch of the United Kingdom and the dominions of the British Commonwealth from 1936 to 1952, around his effigy. The legend Georgiev's vidg rex et and imp translates from Latin to George VI. By the grace of God, King and Emperor of India. This title reflects Canada's historical status as a dominion within the British Empire, with the monarch holding the additional title of Emperor of India, despite India's evolving path toward independence at that time. Interestingly, the year 1947 marked a critical juncture in the history of the British Commonwealth and the Indian subcontinent. India gained its independence from British rule in August 1947, leading to the partition that created the nations of India and Pakistan. This monumental event had direct implications for Canadian coinage, since coins with the int imp Emperor of India title were minted before India's independence. 1947 became the final year such coins were produced with that inscription. However, due to production constraints and the time required to update coin dies, many 1947 dated coins were struck in 1948 using the older dies still bearing the intimped inscription, leading to fascinating varieties and collector intrigue within. Numismatics, the reverse of the 1947 Canadian 1-cent coin, proudly displays the iconic maple leaf design, an enduring symbol of Canadian identity. The twin maple leaves attached to a single stem were originally designed by George Edward Kruger Gray, a renowned artist and coin designer. This image first appeared on Canadian cents in 1937 as part of a broader modernization of Canadian coin designs, which emphasized national symbols over colonial imagery. The simplicity and natural elegance of the maple leaf motif embody Canada's rich forests and its emblematic representation of unity, peace, and pride. Technically, the 1947 1-cent coin is composed of bronze, typically an alloy of 95.5% copper, 3% tin, and 1.5% zinc. It weighs approximately 3.24 grams, the diameter of 19.05 millimeters, and a plain smooth edge. This composition and size remained consistent for Canadian 1-cent coins throughout much of the 20th century, making them instantly recognizable and highly familiar to generations of Canadians. An intriguing aspect for collectors is the variety of 1947 coins, some of which were produced with a small maple leaf symbol next to the date. These maple leaf coins denote those struck in 1948 using old 1947 dies, a practical decision necessitated by the time-consuming process of updating the coinage to reflect India's new independent status. As such, the 1947 maple leaf variety, though minor in visual difference, carries significant historical symbolism and is a coveted piece for numismatists, reflecting the transitional period from colonial ties toward Canada's growing national identity. The King George VI portrait, designed by British artist Thomas Humphrey Paget, represents the monarch in a dignified, modest profile. His image lacks the crown, aligning with the more understated depictions favored during his reign. Unlike some predecessors, King George VI's portrait projects an approachable and steady image, befitting his role during challenging global events like World War II and the subsequent reorganization of global alliances. Economically, the 1-cent coin served as the lowest denomination of Canadian currency in everyday transactions. It was vital for small purchases in making change, especially in an era where the purchasing power of 1 cent far exceeded its modern equivalent. From buying candy, newspapers, or small household items, the penny remained integral to Canadian commerce. As time progressed, Canadian society would see significant evolution, including its economic systems, coin designs, and constitutional autonomy. Yet the 1947 1-cent coin remains a tangible artifact from this period, a small yet meaningful link to Canada's wartime endurance, its post-war transformations, and the subtle yet profound changes in the nation's relationship to the British Crown and the wider Commonwealth. For collectors today, the 1947 Canadian 1-cent coin holds varying degrees of value depending on its condition, mint luster, and whether it bears the maple leaf variety. Well-preserved examples, particularly those with clear details and minimal wear, can command higher interest in numismatic markets. Beyond monetary worth, however, the coin symbolizes a pivotal moment in Canada's nationhood, a time when the country navigated its emerging role as both a loyal dominion and an increasingly independent actor on the world stage. In conclusion, the 1947 KG Canada 1-cent coin, adorned with King George VI's effigy and carrying the historical IMT title, is more than a piece of bronze currency. It is a vessel of history, national identity, and subtle reminders of the global changes that shaped modern Canada. The next top 1983 Canadian 1-cent coin is commonly known as the Canadian penny. Represents not only a small denomination of Canada's currency, but also a tangible piece of the nation's history, numismatic culture, and royal legacy. Issued by the Royal Canadian Mint, this coin belongs to a long-running series of 1-cent coins that feature the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, reflecting Canada's constitutional monarchy and its enduring ties to the British Crown. Obverse design. The portrait of Queen Elizabeth, obverse side of the 1983 Canadian 1-cent coin bears the right-facing effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, Canada's head of state. This portrait was designed by the renowned British sculptor Arnold Machin, whose initials AM can often be found subtly inscribed on coins of this era. The portrait shows Her Majesty wearing a tiara, symbolizing her status and dignity as the reigning monarch. Surrounding the portrait is the Latin inscription, Elizabeth 2DGA Regina, where DAG Regina is an abbreviation for the Latin phrase De Gratia Regina, meaning, by the grace of God, Queen. This phrase is a traditional element on Canadian coinage, reflecting the monarch's role as sovereign under divine providence, customary feature inherited from British coinage traditions. The use of this portrait marks an important period in Canadian numismatics. It's from 1965 to 1989. Canadian coins featured the Machin portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, known for its refined, youthful depiction of the Queen, which was widely used across Commonwealth countries. This design is cherished by collectors for its historical context and its elegant representation of the monarch during the early decades of her reign. Reverse design. The maple leaf sprig and symbolism. The reverse of the 1983 1-cent coin presents the classic and iconic maple leaf sprig, a powerful national emblem of Canada. This design features two maple leaves attached to a single twig, meticulously detailed to reflect the natural beauty and national pride associated with the maple tree, symbol of Canada that dates back to the 18th century. Beneath the maple leaves is the denomination 1 cent, followed by the issuing country name Canada and the year of minting, 1983. Just below the twig, the initials KGR visible, denoting the designer of the reverse, George Kruger Gray, respected British artist who created this enduring design in 1937. Kruger. Gray's maple leaf design has become one of the most recognized symbols in Canadian coinage history. Gracing the penny for decades, the maple leaf symbolizes unity, tolerance, and peace, values that resonate with Canada's multicultural society and historical development as a nation. The continued use of this design on Canadian pennies throughout the 20th century reinforced the maple leaf as a unifying emblem. Later incorporated into the national flag introduced in 1965. Composition, dimensions, and production details. The 1983 Canadian 1 cent coin was struck in bronze, consisting of 98% copper, 0.5% tin, and 1.5% zinc. Aligning with the traditional composition of Canadian pennies from the mid-20th century, This composition gives the coin its distinct reddish-brown hue, which can vary in tone depending on circulation and environmental exposure. Key specifications include diameter 19.05 millimeters, weight 2.5 grams, change plain smooth mint, royal. Canadian Mint, Ottawa, Canada. The Royal Canadian Mint, established in 1908, produced millions of these coins in 1983 to support the needs of commerce, with the penny remaining an essential part of daily transactions during that carried historical and economic context of 1983. The year 1983 was marked by significant developments in Canada and globally. Economically, Canada was emerging from the early 1980s recession, with inflation stabilizing and industries beginning to recover. Although the purchasing power of the penny had diminished compared to earlier decades, it remained vital for pricing structures, taxation, calculations, and cash transactions. Internationally, Queen Elizabeth II continued her role as a constitutional monarch, visiting various Commonwealth nations and overseeing an evolving relationship between the monarchy and modern democracies. Canada's loyalty to the Crown, coupled with its growing national identity, is reflected in the coinage of the era, blending tradition with contemporary design, numismatic significance, and collectability for coin collectors and numismatists. The 1983 Canadian 1 cent holds moderate interest, although not rare. Its significance lies in representing the transition period of Canadian coinage in the 1980s, leading to discussions about the coin's design evolution, composition, and the eventual discontinuation of the penny. In 2012, Canada officially ceased production of the 1 cent coin due to rising production costs and reduced purchasing power, making older pennies, like the 1983 issue, increasingly symbolic of Canada's monetary history. Circulated examples of the 1983 penny are common, often showing varying degrees of wear and patina, while uncirculated or proof-like specimens, especially those in mint condition or included in collector sets, hold higher numismatic value. Some collectors also seek specific die varieties or mint errors from this year. Although no major varieties for 1983 are widely reported compared to other years like 1985 or 1990, legacy and cultural reflection, the 1983 Canadian 1 cent coin encapsulates more than just a monetary function. It serves as a small artifact reflecting Canadian identity, royal tradition, and artistic craftsmanship. It bridges Canada's colonial ties with its independent, multicultural present while honoring Queen Elizabeth II's enduring role as a constitutional monarch. For those who appreciate history, the 1983 penny represents an era of Canadian resilience, national pride, and the subtle yet profound way everyday objects, like coins, tell the story of a nation and its people. The next top, the 1867 to 1992 Canadian 1 cent coin, also commonly known as the Canada Confederation 125th Anniversary Penny, presents a fascinating blend of Canadian history, national pride, and numismatic heritage. Struck to commemorate the 125th anniversary of Canadian Confederation, this special edition of the 1 cent coin reflects not only Canada's evolution as a nation, but also the deep-rooted significance of its coinage under the enduring reign of Queen Elizabeth II. Historical context: Canada's Confederation 1867 to 1992. To appreciate this coin, one must understand the profound historical milestone it celebrates. In 1867, the British North America Act, now known as the Constitution Act, 1867, united 3 British colonies, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and the province of Canada, which later became Ontario and Quebec, into the Dominion of Canada. This marked the beginning of modern Canada as a self-governing federation within the British Empire. The Confederation laid the foundation for Canada's expansion, its identity, and eventual full sovereignty, with the nation growing to encompass 10 provinces and 3 territories. By 1992, Canada had evolved into a vibrant, multicultural, and economically significant nation, proud of its traditions, indigenous heritage, and unity amidst diversity. To mark the 125th anniversary of Confederation, the Royal Canadian Mint released A range of commemorative coins, including this distinctive 1-cent piece. Detailed obverse description. The obverse of the coin features the familiar, dignified portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by the Canadian artist Dora de Pettery Hunt. This effigy was first introduced on Canadian coinage in 1990, replacing the earlier portrait by Arnold Machen. Elements of the obverse portrait. Queen Elizabeth II is depicted facing right, wearing the George IV state diadem, adorned with diamonds, crosses, and floral symbols representing England roses, Scotland sisals, and Ireland shamrocks. This regal depiction reflects her role as the constitutional monarch of Canada, underscoring her connection to Canadian governance and traditions. Inscription: Elizabeth II DG Regina. The Latin phrase translates to Elizabeth II. By the grace of God, Queen. This inscription reflects Canada's constitutional monarchy and the historical tradition of referencing divine right in royal titles. Designer initials, below. The portrait are the subtle initials DP, representing Dora de Pettery Hunt, the first Canadian artist to design a royal effigy for Canadian currency. The portrait's intricate design and refined detailing symbolize Canada's loyalty to its traditions, while embracing contemporary artistry, reverse description, and symbolism. Reverse design distinguishes this coin as part of the special Confederation 125th Anniversary series. Unlike the standard penny, which typically features 2 maple leaves on a twig, this coin showcases a single maple leaf, rendered in an elegant, stylized form, commemorating Canada's unity and natural beauty. Elements of the reverse maple leaf. The solitary maple leaf symbolizes Canadian identity, unity, and the nation's vast natural heritage. The maple leaf has been an emblem of Canada since the 18th century and officially appeared on the national flag in 1965. Dual date inscription, 1867 to 1992. These dates bookend the 125 years from Confederation to the present, honoring the progress, achievements, and struggles of Canada throughout its history. Denomination: 1 cent. This clearly indicates the coin's face value as 1 cent within Canada's decimal currency system. Country name: Canada, proudly inscribed to emphasize the nation's identity. Designer: Initials: the initials KG belong to George Kruger Gray, the artist responsible for the maple leaf design featured on Canadian pennies for decades. Although the coin bears a commemorative reverse, Kruger Gray's artistic influence persists in the stylized interpretation of the national symbol. Technical specifications: featured Itales Country Canada, year of issue 1992. Commemorative denomination: 1 cent. Composition: 9, 8% copper, 0.5% tin. 1.5% zinc. Diameter: 19.0, 5 m. Thickness: 1.45 m. Weight: 2.5 grams. Sedgeplane mint royal. Canadian mint. The coin retains the traditional copper composition, which was characteristic of Canadian pennies of the time. Now, the composition had been altered over the years due to rising copper prices. Significance in Canadian numismatics: this commemorative penny holds special significance for collectors and historians alike, as part of Canada's rich numismatic history. The 1867 to 1992 penny serves both as legal tender and a historical artifact, bridging the past and present. While millions were minted for circulation, making them relatively common in everyday transactions at the time, pristine, uncirculated examples, particularly in proof-like sets, are valued among collectors for their symbolic and aesthetic appeal. Additionally, the coin marks an intersection between Canada's evolving identity and the long reign of Queen Elizabeth II, reflecting both loyalty to tradition and celebration of Canadian autonomy and heritage. Broader historical themes: the 1992 Confederation penny emerges during a period of reflection and national dialogue in Canada. In the early 1990s, Canada grappled with constitutional challenges, debates over Quebec's sovereignty, Indigenous rights recognition, and evolving multicultural policies. Thus, the 125th anniversary offered Canadians an opportunity to celebrate unity while acknowledging the complexities of nation-building. Simultaneously, the presence of Queen Elizabeth II on the coin underscores Canada's status as a constitutional monarchy, even as Canadian identity became increasingly distinct from its British roots. The maple leaf, a national emblem, the prominence of the maple leaf on this commemorative coin reflects its evolution as a symbol of Canadian pride. Adopted by military units in the 19th and 20th centuries, featured prominently during both World Wars, officially incorporated into the Canadian flag in 1965, represents unity, peace, and the vast forests that dominate Canada's landscape. The lone maple leaf on this coin symbolizes Canada's individuality on the world stage, its environmental heritage, and the resilience of its people. Collector's perspective and modern relevance. Although the 1-cent coin was officially withdrawn from circulation in Canada in 2013 due to the cost of production exceeding its face value, coins like the 1867 to 1992 commemorative penny remain cherished by collectors. Today, they serve not only as historical artifacts, but also as reminders of Canadian unity, growth, and the enduring monarchy under Queen Elizabeth II, whose reign spanned over 7 decades until her passing in 2022. Coins like this allow Canadians and numismatists worldwide to engage with history tangibly, holding in their hands a piece of national heritage that commemorates resilience, diversity, and progress. Conclusion: the 1867 to 1992 Canadian 1-cent coin, bearing the dignified image of Queen Elizabeth II and the commemorative maple leaf design, stands as more than mere currency. It encapsulates 125 years of Canadian history, honors the nation's evolution from colonial confederation to a modern sovereign state, and reflects the enduring symbols of identity and unity through its artistry, historical context, and cultural significance. This coin continues to resonate with those who value Canada's rich past and hopeful future. The 1994 Canadian 1-cent coin, minted by the Royal Canadian Mint, is part of Canada's long-standing tradition of small-denomination coinage that reflects both national pride and royal heritage. This particular coin carries significant historical and cultural value, serving as a daily-use coin while embodying key aspects of Canada's identity: British monarchy symbolism and numismatic design evolution. Obverse design. The obverse of the coin features the familiar portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, Canada's head of state in 1994, reflecting Canada's constitutional monarchy system. Inscription around her effigy reads, Elizabeth II Regina, an abbreviation of the Latin phrase Dei Gratia Regina, meaning, by the grace of God, Queen. This phrase is emblematic of Canada's historical ties to the British Crown and acknowledges the sovereign's divine right to rule, a tradition rooted in European monarchic history. The portrait used on the 1994 Slint coin was designed by Dora de Pettery Hunt, a distinguished Canadian sculptor originally from Hungary. She became the first Canadian artist to design the Queen's effigy for Canadian coinage. With her portrait first appearing in 1990, this specific image shows Queen Elizabeth II wearing a tiara, facing right, capturing both regality and modern elegance. The use of de Pettery Hunt's design symbolizes a significant moment in Canadian numismatics, reflecting Canada's maturing national identity, while still honoring its constitutional and historic links to the monarchy. Reverse design. The reverse side features the iconic maple leaf twig, a powerful symbol of Canada, designed by George Edward Kruger Gray, a British artist known for his contributions to coin designs across the Commonwealth. The maple leaf represents Canada's natural heritage, unity, and pride, having been an emblem of the country since the 18th century. The design shows 2 maple leaves on the same stem, symbolizing both Canada's natural landscape and its people's resilience. Encircling the maple leaf motif are the inscriptions. 1 cent, denoting the coin's face value. 1994, the year of minting, placing the coin in a transitional era of Canadian currency. Canada proudly stating the nation of issue. Additionally, the initials KGR discreetly placed beneath the maple leaf design, acknowledging the artist Kruger-Gray composition and specifications. In 1994, Canadian 1-cent coins were made primarily from copper-plated zinc. marking a departure from earlier compositions that were primarily bronze. This change was part of cost-saving measures initiated by the Royal Canadian Mint, as the intrinsic value of copper had risen, making it economically impractical to mint pennies entirely from copper. Diameter, 19.05 ohm thickness, approximately 1.45 ohm weight, 2.25 grams composition, 98.4% zinc, 1.6% copper plating edge. Plainly shift to copper-plated zinc reflects broader economic considerations of the time, as the Canadian government sought to reduce production costs while maintaining the penny's familiar appearance for public use. Historical context and circulation. In 1994, Canadian 1-cent coin remained widely circulated and essential for everyday transactions, particularly in pricing that involved fractions of a dollar. Despite inflation gradually eroding the coin's purchasing power, the penny persisted as a necessary component of Canada's decimal currency system. The 1990s were a period of subtle transformation in Canadian coinage. Technological advancements in minting allowed for more efficient production processes, and the Royal Canadian Mint began adopting more cost-effective materials. As seen in the 1994 penny zinc core, the continued use of the penny symbolized both practical currency, utility, and the cultural attachment many Canadians had to this humble denomination. Numismatic significance. Though not considered rare in circulated condition, 1994 Canadian 1-cent coins hold value among collectors, especially in uncirculated or proof states. Coins graded as MS65 mint state or higher, with no visible wear, sharp details, and original luster, are sought after by numismatists who specialize in modern Canadian coinage. Proof-like sets, and specially minted editions from 1994, often sold by the Royal Canadian Mint in collector packaging, further attract interest from hobbyists and history enthusiasts. Over time, these coins have become increasingly symbolic, as Canada phased out the penny from daily use, officially ceasing production of 1-cent coins in 2012. Due to rising costs and minimal economic utility, cultural and symbolic importance. Beyond its monetary role, the 1994 Canadian 1-cent coin reflects Canada's evolving national identity, blending monarchical heritage with Canadian symbols like the maple leaf. It also underscores the transitionary period of the early 1990s, as Canada balanced tradition with modernization. For many Canadians, the penny evokes nostalgia, reminding them of simpler times when even a single cent had purchasing power. Its withdrawal from circulation nearly 2 decades later sparked public discussions about economic efficiency, heritage preservation, and national identity. Conclusion: the 1994 Canadian 1-cent coin represents more than just a piece of currency. It embodies Canada's rich historical tapestry, constitutional monarchy, natural symbolism, and evolving economic practices. With its combination of iconic design elements, links to both British and Canadian artistic contributions, and its role within everyday life for millions of Canadians, this small copper-plated coin stands as a lasting testament to Canada's cultural and numismatic legacy.